from Manual of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan.
It was a relief globe of a world, partly in shadows, spinning under the impetus of a fat hand that glittered with rings. The globe sat on a free-form stand at one wall of a windowless room whose other walls presented a patchwork of multicolored scrolls, film books, tapes, and reels. Light glowed in the room from golden balls hanging in mobile suspensor fields. An ellipsoid desk with a top of jade-pink petrified lacquer wood stood at the center of the room. Very-formed suspensor chairs ranged towards the mountain. In one sat a dark-haired youth of about 16 years, round of face and with sullen eyes. The other held a slender, short man with a feminine face. Both youth and man stared at the globe, and the man, half hidden in shadows, spinning it. A chuckle sounded beside the globe. A basso voice rumbled out of the chuckle. "There it is, Piter. The biggest man-trap in all history. And the Duke's headed into its jaws. Is it not a magnificent thing that I, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, do?" "Assuredly, Baron," said the man. His voice came out tenor with a sweet musical quality. The fat hand descended onto the globe, stopped the spinning. Now, all eyes in the room could focus on the motionless surface and see that it was the kind of globe made for wealthy collectors or planetary governors of the Empire. It had the stamp of imperial handicraft about it. Latitude and longitude lines were laid in with hair-fine platinum wire. The polar caps were insets of finest cloud milk diamonds. The fat hand moved, tracing details on the surface. "I invite you to observe," the basso voice rumbled. "Observe closely, Piter, and you too, Feyd-Rautha, my darling. From 60 degrees north to 70 degrees south, these exquisite ripples. Their coloring, does it not remind you of sweet caramels? And nowhere do you see blue of lakes, or rivers, or seas. And these lovely polar caps so small. Could anyone mistake this? Arrakis. Truly unique. A superb setting for a unique victory." A smile touched Piter's lips.
"And to think, Baron, the Padishah Emperor believes he's given the Duke your spice planet. How poignant."
"That's a nonsensical statement," the Baron rumbled. "You say this to confuse young Feyd-Rautha, but it is not necessary to confuse my nephew." The sullen-faced youth stirred in his chair, smoothed a wrinkle in the black leotards he wore. He sat upright as a discreet tapping sounded at the door in the wall behind him. Piter unfolded from his chair, crossed to the door, cracked it wide enough to accept a message cylinder. He closed the door, unrolled the cylinder, and scanned it. A chuckle sounded from him. Another. "Well?" the Baron demanded.
"The fool answered us, Baron."
"Whenever did an Atreides refuse the opportunity for a gesture?" the Baron asked. "Well, what does he say?"
"He's most uncouth, Baron. Addresses you as Harkonnen. No sire et cher cousin, no title, nothing."
"It's a good name," the Baron growled, and his voice betrayed his impatience. "What does dear Leto say?"
"He says, your offer of a meeting is refused. I have oft-times met your treachery, and this all men know."
"And?" the Baron asked.
"He says the art of Canley still has admirers in the Empire. He signs it, Duke Leto of Arrakis." Piter began to laugh. "Of Arrakis? Oh my! This is almost too rich.
Be silent, Piter, the Baron said. And the laughter stopped as though shut off with a switch. Kindly is it? The Baron asked. Vendetta, eh? And he uses the nice old word so rich in tradition to be sure I know he means it.
You made the peace gesture, Piter said. The forms have been obeyed.
For a mentat, you talk too much, Piter, the Baron said. And he thought, I must do away with that one soon. He has almost outlived his usefulness.
The Baron stared across the room at his mentat assassin, seeing the feature about him that most people noticed first, the eyes, the shaded slits of blue within blue, the eyes without any white in them at all. A grin flashed across Piter's face. It was like a mask grimace beneath those eyes. But Baron, never has revenge been more beautiful. It is to see a plan of the most exquisite treachery to make Leto exchange Caladan for Dune, and without alternative because the Emperor orders it. How waggish of you. In a cold voice, the Baron said,
You have a flux of the mouth, Piter.
But I am happy, my Baron, whereas you are touched by jealousy.
Piter?
Aha, Baron, is it not regrettable you were unable to devise this delicious scheme by yourself?
Someday I will have you strangled, Piter.
Of a certain, Baron, enfin. But a kind act is never lost, eh?
Have you been chewing verite or semuta, Piter?
Truth without fear surprises the Baron, Piter said. His face drew down into a caricature of a frowning mask. Ah, but you see, Baron, I know as a mentat when you will send the executioner. You will hold back just so long as I am useful. To move sooner would be wasteful, and I'm yet of much use. I know what it is you learned from that lovely Dune planet. Waste not. True, Baron? The Baron continued to stare at Piter. Fade Rautha squirmed in his chair. These wrangling fools, he thought. My uncle cannot talk to his mentat without arguing. Do they think I've nothing to do except listen to their arguments?
Hello there.
Fade,
I believe we
the
are
Baron
not
said.
acquainted.
I told you to listen and learn when I invited you in here. Are you learning?
With us? If not,
Yes,
I prefer
Uncle.
to keep a distance.
The voice was carefully
if possible.
subservient. Sometimes I wonder about Piter, the Baron said. I cause pain out of necessity. But he, I swear he takes it out of his delight. For myself, I can feel pity toward the poor Duke Leto. Dr. Yui will move against him soon, and that'll be the end of all the Atreides. But surely Leto will know whose hand directed the pliant doctor. And knowing that will be a terrible thing.
Then why haven't you directed the doctor to slip a kinjal between his ribs quietly and efficiently? Piter asked. You talk of pity, but
The Duke must know when I encompass his doom, the Baron said. And the other great houses must learn of it. The knowledge will give them pause. I'll gain a bit more room to maneuver. The necessity is obvious, but I don't have to like it.
Room to maneuver, Piter sneered. Already you have the Emperor's eyes on you, Baron. You move too boldly. One day the Emperor will send a legion or two of his Sardaukar down here unto Giedi Prime, and that'll be an end to the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
You'd like to see that, wouldn't you, Piter? The Baron asked. You'd enjoy seeing the core of Sardaukar pillage through my cities and sack this castle. You'd truly enjoy that.
Does the Baron need to ask? Piter whispered.
You should have been a Bashar of the core, the Baron said. You're too interested in blood and pain. Perhaps I was too quick with my promise of the spoils of Arrakis.
Piter took 5 curiously mincing steps into the room,
stopped directly behind Phaedrotha. There was a tight air of tension in the room, and the youth looked up at Piter with a worried frown.
Do not toy with Piter, Baron, Piter said. You promised me the Lady Jessica. You promised her to me.
For what, Piter? The Baron asked. For pain? Piter stared at him, dragging out the silence. Phaedrotha moved his suspensor chair to one side, said, Uncle, do I have to say? You said you'd... My darling, Phaedrotha grows impatient, the Baron said. He moved within the shadows beside the door. Patience fade. And he turned his attention back to the mentat. What of the dukeling? The child falls, my dear Piter. The trap will bring him to you, Baron, Piter muttered. That's not my question, the Baron said. You'll recall that you predicted the Bene Gesserit witch would bear a daughter to the Duke. You were wrong, mentat? I'm not often wrong, Baron, Piter said. And for the first time there was fear in his voice.
Give me that. I'm not often wrong. And you know yourself these Bene Gesserit bear mostly daughters. Even the Emperor's consort had produced only females.
Uncle, said Phaedrotha, you said there'd be something important here for me to... Listen to my nephew, the Baron said. He aspires to rule my barony, yet he cannot rule himself. The Baron stirred beside the globe, a shadow among shadows. Well then, Phaedrotha Harkonnen, I summoned you here hoping to teach you a bit of wisdom. Have you observed our good mentat? You should have learned something from this exchange. But, Uncle, a most efficient mentat, Piter, wouldn't you say, Faye? Yes, but... indeed, but he consumes too much spice. Eats it like candy. Look at his eyes. He might have come directly from the Arakeen labor pool. Efficient, Piter, but he's still emotional and prone to passion. Efficient, Piter, but he still can err. Piter spoke in a low, sullen tone.
Did you call me in here to impair my efficiency with criticism, Baron?
Impair your efficiency? You know me better, Piter. I wish only for my nephew to understand the limitations of a mentat.
Are you already training my replacement? Piter demanded.
Replace you?
Why, Piter, where could I find another mentat with your kind? The same place you found me, Baron.
Perhaps I should at that, the Baron mused. You do seem a bit unstable lately, and the spice you eat.
Are my pleasures too expensive, Baron? Do you object to them?
My dear Piter, your pleasures are what tie you to me. How could I object to that? I merely wish my nephew to observe this about you.
Then I'm on display, Piter said. Shall I dance? Shall I perform my various functions for the eminent Phaedrotha?
Precisely, the Baron said. You are on display. Now be silent. He glanced at Phaedrotha, noting his nephew's lips, the full and pouting look of them, the Harkonnen genetic marker, now twisted slightly in amusement. This is a mentat, Fade. It has been trained and conditioned to perform certain duties. The fact that it's encased in a human body, however, must not be overlooked. A serious drawback, that. I sometimes think the ancients with their thinking machines had the right idea.
They were toys compared to me, Piter snarled. You yourself, Baron, could outperform those machines.
Perhaps, the Baron said. Ah, well. He took a deep breath. Belched. Now, Piter, outline for my nephew the salient features of our campaign against the House of Atreides. Function as a mentat for us, if you please.
Baron, I've warned you not to trust one so young with this information. Observations of...
I'll be the judge of this. I give you an order, mentat. Perform one of your various functions. assuming an odd attitude of dignity, as though it were another mask, but this time clothing his entire body.
In a few days' standard, the entire household of the Duke Leto will embark on a spacing guild liner for Arrakis. The guild will deposit them at the city of Arrakeen rather than at our city of Kartak. The Duke's mentat, Thufir Hawat, will have concluded rightly that Arrakeen is easier to defend.
Listen carefully, Fade, the Baron said. Observe the plans within plans within plans. Fade Ratha nodded, thinking, this is right. The old monster is letting me in on secret things at last. He must really mean something to be this. There are several tangential possibilities, Piper said. I indicate that House Atreides will go to Arrakis. We must not, however, ignore the possibility the Duke has contracted with the Guild to remove him to a place of safety outside the system. Others in like circumstances have become renegade houses, taking family atomics and shields and fleeing beyond the Imperium. The Duke's too proud a man for that, the Baron said.
It is a possibility, Piter said. The ultimate effect for us would be the same, however.
No, it would not, the Baron growled. I must have him dead and his line ended.
That's the high probability, Piter said. There are certain preparations that indicate when a house is going renegade. The Duke appears to be doing none of these things.
So, the Baron sighed, get on with it, Piter.
At Arrakeen, Piter said, the Duke and his family will occupy the residency, lately the home of Count and Lady Fenring.
The ambassador to the smugglers, the Baron chuckled.
Ambassador to what? Fade Ratha asked. Your uncle makes a joke, Piter said. He calls Count Fenrir ambassador to the smugglers, indicating the Emperor's interest in smuggling operations on Arrakis.
Fade Ratha turned a puzzled stare on his uncle.
Why?
Don't be dense, Fade, the Baron snapped. As long as the Guild remains effectively outside Imperial control, how could it be otherwise? How else could spies and assassins move about? Fade Ratha's mouth made a soundless, oh.
We've arranged diversions at the residency, Piter said. There'll be an attempt on the life of the Atreides heir, an attempt which could succeed.
Piter, the Baron rumbled, you indicated.
I indicated accidents can happen, Piter said. And the attempt must appear valid.
Ah, but the lad has such a sweet body. The Baron said. Of course, he's potentially more dangerous than the father, with that witch mother training him. A cursed woman. Ah, well, please continue, Piter.
Hawat will have divined that we have an agent planted on him, Piter said. The obvious suspect is Dr. Yue, who is indeed our agent, but Hawat has investigated and found that our doctor is a Suk school graduate with Imperial conditioning, supposedly safe enough to minister even to the Emperor. Great store is set on Imperial conditioning. It's assumed that ultimate conditioning cannot be removed without killing the subject. However, as someone once observed, given the right lever, you can move a planet. We found the lever that moved the doctor.
How? Fade Ratha asked. He found this a fascinating subject. Everyone knew you couldn't subvert Imperial conditioning. Another time, the Baron said. Continue, Piter.
In place of you, Piter said, we'll drag a most interesting suspect across Hawat's path. The very audacity of this suspect will recommend her to Hawat's attention.
Her? Fade Ratha asked. The Lady Jessica.
Herself, the Baron said.
Is it not sublime?
Piter asked. Hawat's mind will be so filled with this prospect, it'll impair his function as a man. He may even try to kill him. Piter frowned, then, but I don't think he'll be able to carry it off.
You don't want him to, eh?
The Baron asked. Don't distract me, Piter said. While Hawat's occupied with the Lady Jessica, we'll divert him further with uprisings in a few garrison towns and the like. These will be put down, The Duke must believe he's gaining a measure of security. Then, when the moment is ripe, we'll signal Ewig and move in with our major force.
Go ahead, tell him all of it, the Baron said.
We'll move in strengthened by 2 legions of Sardaukar disguised in Harkonnen livery.
Sardaukar? Feyd-Rautha breathed. His mind focused on the dread Imperial troops, the killers without mercy, the soldier fanatics of the Protestant Empire. You see how I trust you, Feyd, the Baron said. No hint of this must ever reach another great house. Else the Landsraad might unite against the Imperial House, and there'd be
The main point, Piter said, is this. Since House Harkonnen is being used to do the Imperial dirty work, we've gained a true advantage. It's a dangerous advantage, to be sure, but if used cautiously, will bring House Harkonnen greater wealth than that of any other house in the Imperium.
You have no idea how much is involved, Feyd. Not in your wildest imagination. To begin, we'll have an irrevocable directorship in the Chom Company. Feyd-Rautha nodded. Wealth was Chom was the key to wealth. Each noble house dipping from the company's coffers whatever it could under the power of the directorships. Those Chom directorships, they were the real evidence of political power in the Imperium. Past the shifts of voting strength within the Landsraad as it balanced itself against the Emperor and his
The Duke Lethal, Piter said, may attempt to flee to the new German or he may try to send his family into that imagined security, but that path is blocked by one of His Majesty's agents, the planetary ecologist. You may remember him. Kynes.
Feyd remembers him, the Baron said. Get on with it.
You do not drool very prettily, Baron, Piter said.
Get on with it, I command you, the Baron roared. Piter shrugged.
If matters go as planned, he said, House Harkonnen will have a sub-fief on Arrakis within a standard year. Your uncle will have dispensation of that fief. His own personal agent will rule on Arrakis. For profit.
Indeed.
He thought,
except for a few mongrel friends hiding in the skirts of the desert, and some tame smugglers bound to the planet most.
And the great houses will know that the Baron has destroyed the Atreides, Piter said. They will know.
They will know, the Baron breathed out.
Loveliest of all, Piter said, is that the Duke will know too. He knows now. He can already feel the trust.
It's true the Duke knows, the Baron said, and his voice held a note of wouldn't tell. Dune, Disc 2.
Thus spoke St. Alia of the Knife. The Reverend Mother must combine the seductive wiles of a courtesan with the untouchable majesty of a virgin goddess, holding these attributes in tension so long as the powers of her youth endure. For when youth and beauty have gone, she will find that the place between, once occupied by tension, has become a wellspring of cunning and resourcefulness. From Muad'Dib, Family Commentaries, by the Princess Irulan.
Well, Jessica, what have you to say for yourself?
Asked the Reverend Mother. It was near sunset at Castle Caladan on the day of Paul's ordeal. The two women were alone in Jessica's morning room while Paul waited in the adjoining soundproofed meditation chamber. Jessica stood facing the south wall. She saw, and yet did not see, the evening's banked colors across meadow and river. She heard, and yet did not hear, the Reverend Mother's voice. There had been another ordeal, so many years ago. A skinny girl with hair the color of bronze, her body tortured by the winds of puberty, had entered the study of the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, Proctor Superior of the Bene Gesserit School on Wallach 9. Jessica looked down at her right hand, flexed the fingers, remembering the pain, the terror, the anger. Poor Paul, she whispered.
I asked you a question, Jessica.
The old woman's voice was snappish, demanding. What? Oh. Jessica tore her attention away from the past, faced the Reverend Mother, who sat with her back against the wall between the two left fingers. What do you want me to say?
What do I want you to say? What do I want you to say?
The old voice carried a tone of cruel mimicry. So I had a son, Jessica flared. And she knew she was being goaded into this anger deliberately.
You were told to bear only daughters to the Atreides.
It meant so much to him, Jessica pleaded.
And you, in your pride, thought you could produce the Kwisatz Haderach.
Jessica lifted her chin, sensed the possibility.
You thought only of your Duke's desire for a son,
the old woman snapped.
And his desires don't figure in this. An Atreides' daughter could have been wed to a Harkonnen heir and sealed the breach. You've hopelessly complicated matters. And you will both blood.
You're not infallible, Jessica said. She braved the steady stare from the old eyes. Presently the old woman muttered,
What's done is done.
I vow never to regret my decision, Jessica said.
How noble,
the Reverend Mother sneered.
No regrets. We shall see when you're a fugitive, with a price on your head, and every man's hand turned against you to seek your life and the life of your son.
Jessica paled. Is there no alternative?
Alternative? A Bene Gesserit should ask that.
Don't you see our future with your superior advice?
I see in the future as in the past. You well know the pattern of our affairs, Jessica. The race knows its own mortality and fears stagnation. The bloodstream, the urge to mingle genetic strains without plan. The Imperium, the Chosen Company, all the great powers are but bits of flotsam in the path of the flood.
Jessica nodded. I suppose it's already decided how they'll redivide.
What is charm but the weather vane of our times? The Emperor and his friends now command 59.65% of the Charm Directorship's votes. Certainly they smell profits. And likely, as others smell those same profits, his voting strength will increase.